From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Lavar Ball and Marianne Williamson. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects, and now, this program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. Those stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Mandate, you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Good day, Gina Grad.
Good day to you.
Handball, Brian.
Yes.
Yes. A lot of range in the show today. Lavar Ball and Marianne Williamson.
All the range.
I wonder if they know each other.
I'm sure they run in the same circles. Lavar, obviously the patriarch, to the Ball. I mean, his youngest son is going to go first in the draft, NBA draft coming up next, and he is in Australia, and he's a baller, and he never went to college. And then, of course, his other two sons, one just missed the Lakers championship because I got traded last year from the Lakers to the Pelicans. But anyway, an interesting story. And Lavar Ball evidently grew up in the San Fernando Valley, obviously a standout athlete, and went to Canoga Park High, home of the Hunters. They've probably been downgraded to Gatherers. Now Hunters a little aggressive, but their mascot was a guy wearing a coonskin cap with a gun.
Now it's a guy with a bonnet and a basket.
That's right. That's right. It's like a maypole and a girl in a basket. So
Did you guys have played against each other in some form of football?
No, we just missed each other. I'm a little bit older than Lavar is, but when I was in high school, the championship years, the teams that went to the Coliseum to play the championship game, I think 2 years that I played varsity, both years Canoga Park went to the championship, and I think they won, but I don't know. But if you look down, and we won't get into it this second, but if you ever look at my all valley roster, and you would be forced to look at it if you talk to me for more than 8 seconds. A lot of it was littered with Canoga Park guys because when you're
a powerhouse.
Yeah, I was the only player on my entire team to make the All-Valley offensive unit, but Canoga Park had four guys on the offensive side of the ball, and probably 4 or 5 guys on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it was heavily populated with Canoga Park players. North Hollywood, not so much.
Well, to be fair, there's not a lot to do in Canoga Park.
That's true. So we'll hunt, evidently.
Right.
They can't still be called the Hunters, or they must have been downgraded. Anyway, so we'll talk to Lavar because it is interesting, and Brian kind of knows the vibe, and Gina knows it too, but Brian, think with a little head towards sports. I
know more of the TMZ angle.
Yeah, when you get...
Lavar might be enough.
When you get to high school, if a year before you got there or 2 years before you got there, like the team was a championship team, like the football team was a powerhouse, you kind of know it. You know some of the names, you'll see some pictures and some trophies, and it becomes a little lore. You know what I mean? Right. So maybe he remembers those guys, or maybe his team was a championship team. I mean, I didn't pay any attention after I graduated, but obviously Canoga Park was still rolling along, and Lavar probably was on those teams.
Well, Adam,
Gina, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, by all means.
I was to that point, Adam. I still remember some of the names of the guys who were 4 or 5 guys I never really met, but just knew the name because they were stud athletes who won like titles.
Right. Gina.
Sorry, Gina.
Well, no, and to that point, I absolutely understand. I was there too. I remember in 8th grade, I knew that Laura Swanson was playing Guinevere in Camelot. It was a little out of reach for a freshman, but I knew if I worked really hard, I would
get your name on that banner too.
Miss Hannigan in Annie as a senior, because I was, and I knew I had something to work for because I knew who was in Camelot and Carousel the year before.
See,
I was just picturing Dr.
Universal
Drew
experience
yelling. halfway into that. No.
Oklahoma. Don't you mean Oklahoma?
Right.
Adam, you said sparked a memory. Did you ever get a chance to play at the Coliseum or some very cool venue like the Rose Bowl or something?
When I was in the 10th grade and I played like B team baseball my first year, because I only went to high school for 3 years, the senior team that year played Sylmar High at Dodger Stadium for the championship.
Wow.
Nice.
And they lost to Dodger Stadium in the championship. But a young, plucky, nubile young athlete who played for Crenshaw and who pitched for Crenshaw High against us, meaning North Hollywood High, and we actually beat them. So they played the early consolation game at Dodger Stadium, was one Daryl Strawberry.
Damn.
Wow.
And Daryl Strawberry hit a dinger.
It's still going?
Imagine, in terms of being a pro prospect, you have played exactly one game in a pro field at Dodger Stadium. Played one game at Dodger Stadium in high school, you hit a home run.
That's pretty badass.
It's pretty badass for a 17-year-old. Like that you got some fucking pop in your bat if you're hitting one out of Dodger Stadium in high school. So that was Daryl Strawberry, and that's about all I got. I attended the game, and of course we lost. And that's about all I got.
I was a marginal high school athlete, marginal at best on my best days. However, my junior varsity team that I was playing on got a chance to play a couple games at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco against, I guess, St. Ignatius or one of those city schools. And it was fucking badass. We got to like come out of the tunnel. You know, the Niners came out of back in the 60s or whatever it was. Like, it was very cool. It was the highlight of my athletic career, playing the game from the bench in Kezar Stadium.
I was selected to be one of the representatives to go to Dallas Cowboy training, the Dallas Cowboy training facility wasn't El Segundo. I can't remember. The Dallas Cowboys used to come out here.
Yeah, in LA area.
Yeah, and train every year back with
Hawthorne or something, or am I thinking
God, I can think of it, but I can't think of it, but I'll know it when I hear it. But they used to come out here, and they had some sort of program where the best high school players from each team, in the Valley or whatever, could go there and essentially have lunch with the Dallas Cowboys and watch them scrimmage. And I don't know, Danny White was the coach, and I think Tom, God, what am I thinking of his last name? The coach, Tom Landry. Yeah, Landry was the coach. All those guys, all those guys from back then, those championship, sort of
America's
Dallas
team.
Cowboy, early 80s, late 70s, early Randy White, all those, not Randy Wang, Randy White, Gina.
Wait, they're different?
Tony Dorsett would have been part of this?
Yeah, they're all those guys. All those guys, Drew Hill or Calvin Hill, or I'm trying to think of Dupree, all those dudes were all there, and it was of course a thrill to go there and then have lunch with them. And
wait, you went?
Yeah, I went because I was chosen as a.
Oh, I was going to say this didn't require a ride or money from your parents, because how would you have gone?
Ed Too Tall Jones.
No, they didn't. My parents didn't know. As far as I know, I was selected, and the van was leaving the parking lot at 8:00 on Saturday morning or whatever that was.
The story adds up again.
Thank you. Yes.
We're back.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get back to that in a second. I had an interesting thought. So I stepped out this morning. It's been warm, but it's starting to cool off at night. At a certain point, no matter how hot it is during the day, it can't really hold back the night. The night still gets cooler just because as we start to get to the end of October, it's what are you going to do, Earth? So I stepped out of my backyard this morning. It was about 8:15, 8:30, and noticed for the first time steam was coming out of my mouth. So I thought I should get in that swimming pool. So I took my plunge in the swimming pool, which was colder than normal, but not its normal degrees when it gets really cold. And then I dried off, and I made a note of it. I was like, well, steam's coming out of my mouth for the first time. I've not seen my breath in the morning around here for 6 months. Now I'm seeing it. Now it's going to start getting cool, and now I got to start thinking about getting into that pool. And I walked in my office, I opened my computer, and someone had tweeted me a story about cold plunges that I thought I'd share with you, but then it triggered a bunch of other thoughts that we're going to sort of pile in on in a second. But you can go ahead and read the headline. It's really the headline, the first paragraph.
Cold water swimming could delay dementia, research suggests. Cold water swimming could help delay neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia, research has suggested. Academics at Cambridge University found that many of the cold water swimmers they monitored at Parliament Hill, Lido in London between 2016 and 2018 had increased levels of a, quote, cold shock protein, RBM3, which a 2015 study on mice showed offered protection against the onset of dementia.
Yeah, now my first impulse was like, well, wait a minute. Are these people that take cold water plunges versus guys who binge watch Love Boat and slam fentanyl? Like, because that's going to be a different group. And no, they were comparing it to people, I think, that did Tai Chi. So you're doing something mindful, like you're health-oriented, you're body-oriented, you're doing something mindful, but it's 75 degrees and there's no fluctuation. You're not getting the freezing cold. And then, so I was kind of, I started thinking about it. And then as per usual, I was trying to sort of weave it into a pattern. And I realized the most we get out of life is the diversity. So, Dr. Drew always said a million years ago, like how much stronger a mutt is than a purebred, the diversity.
Just think about the Royals from how many hundreds of years ago. They're all fucking inbred and they got hemophilia.
Right. So diversity.
Kansas City?
That's right, George Brett.
Diversity.
Saberhagen? Okay.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
So diversity is what I was thinking about. And then I thought, okay, we've been talking about and learning about diversity as it pertains to your gut, your bowel, and what you're exposing yourself to. And, of course, all these stories coming out that Amish kids aren't allergic to anything because they're exposed to animals and dirt, and they roll around, and the kids that live in the penthouse in Manhattan have these super high levels of these allergies and, peanut allergies and gluten. And also, hay fever and stuff like that. So, of course, I've been a broken record with, instead of bathing your kid with Purell, expose them to stuff. Show them some dirt. Let the system work. Let your system push. Let your system exercise. Let it push it. It needs. So, and I'll let you in a second, Brad. Our entire life is really built around resistance training. You send the astronauts go to the moon, they lose all their muscle. There's no weights. We have to come up with ways. I mean, it's a serious issue. If you're going to be in the space station for 6 months, we have to invent something so you won't wither on the vine, right?
Against.
Right. Yeah. And then we all understand that there's sort of a mental version of it. Like, I need a worthy adversary to play chess with me, not some junior high kid. I need someone who's good so I can challenge myself, And your system needs that. And then I started thinking, well, what's the difference? We understand the mental part. We understand the physical. We understand the resistance training for muscles. Everyone, well, the more weight, the more resistance, the more positively you react. And then we're starting to learn it about the gut and all the microbes and microbacteria. But I thought, what about just in general your system? And here's what I've been saying it, but not tapping into it. I keep saying, where everyone's just sitting in a cubicle and it's 72 degrees. It's 72 degrees. And everyone gets out of their air-conditioned car and gets into the air-conditioned cubicle and goes back to their air-conditioned condo. And then they go into the store and it's all just one temperature. So your body isn't really asked to do much to regulate that because we don't need it. But think about what your body does when you drop it into a freezing cold body of water.
I know.
Right. Every part, if you do it volitionally, fine. But anyone who's ever been to a pool party, not a pool party, but just like a high school party, and had some doofus friend like my buddy Ray just push you into the pool, in winter, it's like your body just goes into full heart attack mode. It's like it turns red. Everything is working. Like it's immediately every part of your body is awoken. And
you're
also,
literally working harder to breathe.
Right.
Yes.
And also,
yes, you are.
So think about then going out and it's 107 degrees and you're hiking. Think about what your body is doing to stave off this 107 degrees as you hike up this hill. It's every bit of it is pushing out sweat, and every bit is alert, every bit is activated, is what I'm saying. And I've long said to you guys, how come all the guys I work with who sort of work outside seem even? They're not moody. They don't have a lot of sick days.
Existential crises.
Not a lot of that. Not a lot of. Remember, I always said they're not allergic to anything. All the guys that just work, they just work, And it's like, because when you work outside, your body is constantly regulating the environment. It's, the other day, the guys I speak of were on the roof of this building. It was 114 degrees out there. Like they not only did their bodies have to work, but their mind had to work. They had to pop up little tents and shade and show up at 6 and knock off at 2 and all kinds of stuff. So what about taking your body, and again, the resistance part, we understand with the weights, but throwing yourself in a pool or taking a hike on 110 degree day, think of what your body's doing. It's global, man. Like every part of your body is working on that. And maybe all the regulated environment, maybe the temperature, literally the temperature, literally think about what your body has to do if you work in a professional world. Your car's parked in a garage. It's got the temperature control. You set it for 70 degrees. It's got the seat warmer, the seat breather, whatever. You drive along. You pull into the underground parking. You get in the elevator. You go up to the office, back down, climb into the Mercedes, go home, the condo. What has your body seen that day?
It's very comfortable.
Nothing.
What kind of workout has your system got? What has it had to fight against or push against?
Your system is probably quite literally asleep the entire time.
Brian, I cut you off 5 minutes ago.
That's okay. I have so many thoughts. Number one, I probably haven't mentioned this in 3.5 years when it actually happened, but we took Tessa to one of her first doctor's appointments, right? She was an infant, a few months old. And of course, one of our questions, first-time parents, like, what do we do about, peanuts? We obviously don't want her to have a peanut allergy, blah, blah, blah. Doctor's like, give her peanut butter right away. As soon as she's ready to eat solid foods, make peanut butter one of the things you feed her. It's one of her favorite foods now. She eats it all the time. She's obsessed. She can't bring it to school because obviously some kids do have the peanut allergy, but at least the doctors have sort of caught on. The doctor was like, yeah, let her play in the dirt, let her eat peanut butter. In fact, give it to her as soon as she can have solid foods. So we started doing that at 8 months old or whatever it was. Number two, yes, I did the cold plunge at your house, Adam, and it was the first time I'd done it. And I obviously, my muscles, not being a very strong guy, my muscles kind of seized up a little bit, but I was alert. Like, it's hard to describe how alert I was, like hyper aware of the feeling, the sensation, but also just very awake. And not that I was sleepy, but it's hard to describe, but it was a hyper, like, sensitive to the world. Like, wow, I got to get out of here.
Well, maybe the Turkish and the Russians and the Koreans all know something and have known it much longer than we have because they're famous for their spas, like the Turkish bathhouses and and it's all about going back and forth between hot temperature and cold temperature, and you think nothing of it. And I think you're absolutely right. The alertness, it is, even if I'm at work or whatever, if you're working on something and it's a little warm and you had a great night's sleep and you can't help but just like start nodding off for no reason because your body is just so comfortable. Mm-hmm. And when it's just a little uncomfortable, you're absolutely right about that alertness.
Yeah. So I think the moral of the story is when you think about resistance, and everyone gets the resistance part of the workout, it's when you take the treadmill and you put it up on an incline, it's a much different workout than when it's flat. Start thinking about that with your gut and your diet and what you ingest and what you expose yourself to. But think about it in terms of your regulation. Like if you think about a sort of globally what your body does, the one thing your body never stops doing is regulating its temperature. It's a constant, you know, we've all woken up in the middle of the night like, oh, I'm covered with sweat. Oh, the heater was on. And the thing, like your body.
It wants to be in stasis.
Right.
It wants to be in a level.
Right. And so I think the problem is we want it to be in stasis. We want it, that's where it wants to be. And we go, okay. So the mistake we've made is we go, here it is. We'll give it to you. We'll give it to you. Every place will have air conditioning or heat. It'll all be, every house is going to have the Nest. And you just set the Nest thermostat for 72 and that's just it. But what kind of workout then are you getting? And so we're now at the point where you got to throw yourself in the pool or the cold shower or, you know, take a sauna and then jump into the cold shower. But either way, I would bet if you took people and did that, it was so funny because I was talking to Tommy Lee the other day on this show, and his God, what's his wife's name? Brittany. I talked to that gal about 6 months ago, and I was like, she's having, you know, anxiety issues and this issues and that issues. Like we tried medication, which I was like, do you have a pool in your house? He's like, yes. I was like, every morning, throw yourself in that pool every morning and get back to me in a week. Do 1 week of that, 1 week, and tell me what it does for you. And that she never did it. But the point is if you took somebody and whatever state they were in, and for 1 week said, every day you take a 15-minute sauna, and then after that, you jump into a freezing cold swimming pool, I just got to believe that person's mood and affect at the end of that week would be much different and better than what it was at the start. And it's kind of free. I mean, it doesn't take, and it's also the plunge. I mean, you got to have a pool, but you can do a cold shower. The plunge is all of 3 minutes. It's not, when people get into like the 90-minute yoga class or the meditation or the Tai Chi or something, I get it. It can be a little laborious, a little
It's suddenly discouraging.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you don't want to go back after doing that for a few days.
Right. All right. Something to think about. Now, on another note, I was watching The Love Boat last night.
You don't say.
So that's the greatest when I come home. I now take pictures of shit that's going on the Love Boat, and I just forward it to Dr. Drew because he's so obsessed.
With no caption.
Yeah, no commentary.
Yeah.
No commentary.
Well, you don't really need it because I first Dr. Bricker. I'm amazed at Dr. Bricker because Dr. Bricker is the ship's doctor, and he's in uniform. And I don't know where Chris went, Dawson, but the first one is just. Sorry, put them in order. Sorry, he does beer. Sorry, I'll show the picture. He does beer during the day. During the day, Dr. Bricker, the ship's doctor, hangs at the bar with Isaac with a cold one.
He's got to stay loose.
He's not in his office. Like if you got sunburn or a rash or stung by jellyfish, you wouldn't find the doc in his office. You got to head up to the Lido deck.
Right.
He's pounding some cold ones with Isaac, the bartender. So he's just holding a glass and they're drinking some beer. And then by night, Vinny would be proud. He switches to scotch.
Oh, sure.
So
That's a full
in his formal wear and his bow tie.
he puts his formal wear on and he moves to a double highball with scotch. And I just send these pictures to Drew all fucking night because he just marvels. His head, it can't, the notion that a physician could just hang out and drink openly. I get having a nip off the flask, like, in a lifeboat. He's just a peacock of, he's a peacock of alcoholism. It's just picture him like, all right, I'll make mine a double, Isaac. Yes.
Oh, no, finish what you were saying. Sorry.
It's also funny, like the captain will come by and be like, all right, Adam, don't tilt too many. There's a lot of fine ladies over here. And it's like, he doesn't even care if the captain's there.
Now that we've been on a number of cruises, what do we find harder to believe? The drinking doctor openly and ample, or the fact that there is a bartender?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
There are 500 bartenders on the cruise as we go on.
There's also the other one too is there's a little 10-second clip where he's sitting poolside trying to counsel Vicky. And the joke is he's saying to young Vicky that, I know you're young and you have a crush on whoever the talent is. Oh, Rex Smith, Gina Grad. No?
Hold on.
Oh, you don't know Rex Smith?
No.
Oh, I was like Pirates of the Penzance and stuff. Jesus
Really?
Christ. I thought this was going to be right up your alley.
Oh, I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
She's still
he
thinking
was
about Brett Saberhagen.
He was in the Broadway musical of Grease. But God, he's not a household name. I gotta get familiar.
Ugh.
Oh, Gina, he's a household name for you if you're one of them fruit flies who loves all the musicals and whatnot.
Well, you know I do.
Oh, Rex Smith was like Pirates and Grease, and
He was the very model of a modern major general. He is information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. He knows the sites of England, and he quotes the sites historical with Marathon and Waterloo and orders categorical. He's very well acquainted with matters mathematical. He understands equations both simple and quadratical, about binomial theorems. He's teeming with a lot of news and many cheerful facts about the square, the hypotenuse. He's very good at integral and differential calculus and shorten something being animalculous and shorten matters vegetable, animal, and mineral. He is the very model of modern major general. Pirates of
I
Penzance?
bet you LeVar Ball couldn't do half of that. We'll have him on in 10 minutes.
Barely.
He might get through the first couple stanzas, but wait a minute. Rex Smith, first off, he's hunk.
hot.
He's hot.
Yeah.
He was Pirates.
hair?
Wasn't he Pirates too? He was a big Broadway. Anyway, all right.
He was back.
Wow.
Gina, there's only 3 guys I know from Broadway, and Rex is one of them.
One of
I'm
them
going to
is
bone
Dag.
up immediately.
One of them's David Allen Greer.
That's right. That's right. So she's got a crush on Rex Smith, who, of course, is not interested in her, but
Well, she's 7.
the doc,
A whole other episode.
and she's doing that thing they used to do in many of these sitcom-y things from the 70s, 80s. She's like, well, maybe if I had a bigger bust, it's like if my bust line, it's creepy. It's like 12-year-old girl going, if I had more of a bust, blah, blah, blah. He had top 10 hit. Oh, you take my breath away. All right. Anyway, here's the doc. So here's the comedy. The doc is counseling young Vicky, and he's saying, don't worry, Vicky. Men aren't just interested in a bust line. I like what's in their head. And then, of course, super hot chick walks up with the bust, and you can take it from there.
I'm sorry I'm late.
Vivian. Well, I guess we better be off.
Oh, we're going to go down to your cabin?
To play.
Aren't we going down to your cabin?
Ho ho.
It's crazy. They put this on TV.
That's how he counseled the young girl. Yeah.
Super hot, busty blonde shows up. By the way, who are these women? Like just smoke show 25-year-olds like hitting on 48-year-old docs. And he's like going, well, let's go for a stroll on the deck. And she's like, I thought we were going to your cabin to fuck.
I'm not going to waste my time.
He's drinking. He's carousing. What the? And you know what Drew always says? What Drew always says is, and we all just watch and went, yeah, there you go. That's where our society was.
You went along with it.
If you want to, well, that's kind of it's sort of like 2 drinking fountains in Alabama, 1951. Like that.
You accepted the premise.
Yeah, people just walk past them. No, people didn't stop and go,
That's
what's
the way
going
it
on?
is.
This is insane. How's this going to? No, it's like, yeah, there you go. That's what Doc does. He hits on chicks on the boat while he's drinking. But he doesn't drink the scotch. To defend the doctor, he rarely drinks the scotch during the day.
right.
He stays
No, he's
with-
not an animal.
He stays on the beer, while the sun is shining, and then later on he makes the move to the scotch.
You know what the debaucherous Dr. Drew does on cruises? Plays Jenga with us
Right.
with a Diet Coke.
Jesus H. Christ. All right, let me hit Bruce over here. Dentist quality clean at home. Bruce. I'll spell it out in a second. They gave me this thing. God, it's been a few months now, and I used it this morning. I use it every morning. I will say about the best thing you can say about a product is when I travel, I bring it with me. And that's kind of the Mason-Dixon line of, do you need this? Do you love it? Yes, I do. Sonic wave technology, 31,000 movements a minute, 100 times as effective as brushing, and basically low price tag. Refill plan, 3 replacement heads every 6 months, just $18, and it's got 6 cleaning modes, and the battery lasts up to a month, and then you just recharge it. It's a magnetic charger, so you don't have to plug it in. You just stand it up there. They got a travel case, and you can get 15% off of your Brush when you use the promo code Adam at Brush. That's BRUUSH.com. Promo code Adam will get that 15% off. All right, let's see. Max Pata, what else? Oh, is LeVar on hold?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with LeVar Ball. And if I call him LeVar Burton, somebody throw a chair at me.
Yeah.
LeVar Ball right after this.
In the spirit of Murrow, Jennings, Cronkite, here's another great moment in local news.
The fire was called Bobcat, and it burned a cougar.
That's a great moment in local news. Now, back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, we have LeVar Ball on. LeVar has himself a show called Ball and the Family. New episodes Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Watch. And LeVar's with us now. Good to see you.
Hey, nice for you guys having me. Appreciate it.
Congratulations on all your and your son's success.
Thank you. We just getting started.
Yeah. Now, I know your youngest, Lamelo, is predicted to go first in the NBA draft. You feel confident of that?
Oh, he'll go number 1.
When is the NBA draft? My schedule's all thrown off now.
I think they said it's November 18th.
Are they going to try to get back onto a schedule of the NBA, or how much do you know about that?
I'm not sure when they're going to get started. I've heard things where they want to start at the end of December, and then I've heard some other people say, well, we might be started in January.
So let's start with your background. We're talking about you being a Canoga Park hunter, I think, back in the day.
Yes, hunter back in the day. Yes, indeed.
And so for those who don't really know, Canoga Park's just kind of the middle of the valley. It's about as valley as the valley gets, right?
Right.
And back then, it's heavily Hispanic now, but it wasn't that Hispanic back then, right?
No, it wasn't. It was kind of diverse on the fact that I've been bussed out to the valley for back in the late 70s. So I was already being bussed out there, and they were taking kids from the inner city and busing them out to the valley.
So where in the inner city did you live growing up?
I lived in LA South Central.
And so there was a program that got you out of the city and into the valley.
Yes.
What was that? Walk us through a typical school day for you, like when you're in high school. Because I know, like, when you play football, I played at North Hollywood High, and I could see the school buses lined up at the end of the football field. And at the end of practice at 5 o'clock or whatever, I would walk home. But the guys who were being bussed in, skill position players mainly, they would be walking toward the bus. And I always thought, God damn, they got a long bus ride now? So
it's about an hour bus ride.
So what was the day like for you, like saying playing football in high school? What time would you get up? Where would you meet the bus in South Central?
So anyways, I would get up at 5:30 because I'm going to get me a good breakfast. The bus stop, they didn't take off till about maybe 6:40, 6:45.
And it'd be about an hour.
What happened is they would pick us up like on a corner of closer to our house, and they would have like 4 or 5 different stops.
And it'd
different areas.
Be about
we would get to school probably close to 7:30.
And like football practice would end at 5 or so, right?
Yes, right. And then they would have they would have regular buses pick everybody up at 3, and then the people who play sports, they would have two other buses.
So it was 2 buses, the same with my high school.
It was 2 buses that would take the athletes.
So for you, I mean, you're leaving the house at, 6:30 and coming home at 6:30 at night every night?
Right.
That's a long-ass day.
Well, it's only a long day if it's not fun.
It's true.
Amen.
If it's not fun, it's a long-ass day. But like I said, after having football practice, and then we get something to eat maybe, we go to Pup and Taco or Taco Bell or whatever. And what time you shoot the breeze and eat, shoot, you almost home. And then one time you get home, if you're either going to have dinner, it's time to do some homework and go about your business, be ready for the next day the same way.
People forgot. Everyone knows Taco Bell now, but they forgot about the old Pup and Taco.
Pup and Taco, that was my spot. I'm surprised. Yeah, see, you understand that old lingo. Say, hey, I remember those days. Pup and Taco.
Yeah. At some point, there were probably more Pup and Tacos than there were Taco Bells. But
yes.
At some point, somebody mismanaged something, and here we are today. So,
exactly.
So you're playing football and basketball in high school, right?
Yes.
And go ahead and brag about that for a little bit.
I was the baddest on 2 feet, like I tell them. Hey. Sometimes when you come watch basketball, you got to buy 2 tickets, one to see the warm-ups and one to see the game.
And did you think about going toward playing football in college versus basketball?
I'll tell you what, like in high school, especially back in my day, we started in the 10th grade, but I just played whatever sport was in season. So it was never like, I think I better play football more than basketball, or basketball more than football. And I figured whichever one gave me a jump on life, that's the one I'm going to do.
Did you always have it in your head that your kids could be professional players? Was that something? Was that in your head before having kids?
Yes, most definitely. Like I said, like I tell people when they think I'm playing, that's one of the reasons I picked my wife. I mean, it was a lot of little short cuties, but when you find a tall one that has some athletes like me and with the last name Ball, what else they gonna do?
What do you think your earliest recollection of having kids and have them be athletes? It's a weird thought when you're 23.
My earliest recollection?
Yeah.
Shoot, probably 9th grade.
Really?
Yes.
That's insane.
I was very good at sports, at all sports, from baseball to football to diving to track and basketball. I love sports. So I said, hey, my kid's going to play some sports. And the fact that I consider myself the big baller, I told myself I ain't going to have nothing but boys. So I already spoken into existence and I ain't never had no girls, so I must be good.
Or Chinese.
Or Chinese. You got some Chinese kids?
No, not yet.
They're not big fans of the daughters.
Not that I'm aware of. So now, sorry, can you hear me okay? Getting a little feedback. So where is the bounce? So I have a son. He's 14. He's not a big baller. He's kind of a no baller, and it never really turned into much. I loved athletics. I played a lot of sports. I always thought of how important it was, but I never felt like I could push him. Like I just felt like he'd end up resenting me if I pushed him. Is there do you ever feel like you cross the line with your kids, or can you push them as hard as they want and they just want more?
Oh, well, see, here's the deal. See, one of the things you don't do is you don't push them. If you push them, that means resistance. How about you guide them? Mm-hmm. You know how most people be like with their parents, I'm going to let my kid figure out what he wants to do. Well, basically, he don't know what he want to do unless you give him some options. So you kind of leading him in that direction and say, I'm going to give you a few options to pick from. Because when you just go out there and just try to figure out something on your own, hey, guess what? It ain't going to work out too good because you're not going to stick with nothing. But you give some guys some options and you start kind of guiding them in a way like, whoa. I told my boys this. In life, you're gonna bust your ass, whether it be in the beginning or the end. So if you're running all these hills right now and lifting weights and working on your game and look where you are now. Youngsters that are millionaires. Or you can not run no hills, just hang out, watch TV, go to movies with your friends all day and don't do nothing. And then after you graduate, try to go to college and find you a job, and you're going to be busting your ass to make ends meet. Like I said, you either going to work hard in the beginning or work hard in the end. Pick one.
I saw a whole expose, must have been a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months ago, probably ESPN, on your youngest, 19, Lamelo, and how this kid is just a phenom and going to go in the first round. But he chose to play in Australia, right?
Yes.
So what was that decision coming out of high school to go play in a professional league in Australia versus go the college route or straight to the NBA? Or you can't go straight to the NBA, right?
Well, you couldn't go straight to the NBA, straight out of high school, because they had that rule. But Melo was smart enough to see what goes on in the college, what happened to my other son, Jello. So it's like, nah, I'm not gonna let him use me. I gave him Lonzo. I gave UCLA Lonzo. They ain't been the same since my son left. And all that was hoopla that was going on, being ranked in the nation and filling up the arenas and using my boy's likeness. They didn't give me a dime.
So he lives in Australia, obviously, full time.
No, he was just in Australia just to play basketball. That was only a few months.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big deal. See, you can pick Australia only if you've been around the world and you've been to Lithuania and other places. So it's very easy to pick a spot that everybody speaks English and you right on the beach.
Yeah, I know.
I can pick that being blind.
Yeah, I feel like if I spent a couple months in Australia, I wouldn't want to come back.
Exactly. See, but that's how Melo made his choice. He could have made probably way more money in China.
Where do you
way more money over there? But he didn't want to go to China on the fact that they don't speak English and the food that he like is not over there.
There's also some health issues going on in China.
It's very easy for him to say, okay, forget about the money. I just want to go somewhere where I'm gonna be happy. And then everybody speaks English, and you're on the beach and the weather. Okay, in Australia, it was summertime over there in November, December. So, hey, that boy had like 2 summers that year.
Do you have a wish for a team you'd like to see him on?
A wish?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'd like to see him on a team where the coach is going to let him be Melo and let him do what he does.
Do you know?
It doesn't matter where he goes. It's just you got to have the right coach believe in you. And that's how any player is successful. They have that one coach to say, you know what? I think this is my guy. Because it don't matter where you go. Look, I had my other son in the backyard in L.A. But if you're in L.A., okay, we at home. But we got a raggedy-ass coach. That ain't going to work. Got to go.
I don't think they wrote raggedy ass on the program.
Right.
But I know what you're saying.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. So any coaches in the league, any teams with coaches in the league where you think would be a good fit for him?
Well, I know one guy would be a good fit for him, but I don't think they're going to give him a job. I think Mark Jackson would be a great fit for him.
But you don't think he's going to get the nod for a head coaching gig?
The fact that he likes shooters, he likes to run. And, hey, another coach that would probably be good for my boys is D'Antoni, because the system that he likes to run, that up and down thing.
What do you think about the Lakers? What do you think about LeBron? How many years does LeBron have? I mean, he's still so dominant, but you can see gray in his beard now.
The way you can be dominant is, as long as you're stronger than everybody, as long as you keep that strength, you're going to be dominant. You're going to be dominant if you keep that strength. I mean, that boy's a good, you're 6'8", and you're still running and you playing the guard. That gives you a longevity.
Speaking of which, I'm curious, did you have your boys on some kind of nutrition? I assume you did nutrition plan, a nutritionist.
No, I didn't do none of that. I said, as long as you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you'll be fine. You just got to do some exercise.
Back to the basics.
People used to ask me sometime in training, they say, man, Lavar, do I need a nutritionist if I want to lose weight? And I used to give them big ballers old scenario. Hey, if you've been eating 2 burgers, eat 1. I guarantee you, whatever you've been eating, cut it in half and you will lose some weight.
So for you, and we'll get the name out, the apparel brand, Big Baller Brand Incorporated as well. How does that, where are we at with the tennis shoes in your kids? Like when your son goes number 1 in the NBA draft, whose shoe is he wearing?
What shoe is, you talking about what shoe is Lamelo wearing?
Yeah.
Oh, Lamelo's he's going to wear a Puma.
Now,
he signed an endorsement deal with Puma.
Now, why not your tennis shoe?
Well, my tennis shoe, I don't have one created for him right now, and he wanted to do something different. So go ahead and do your thing, and let me go ahead and do my thing. Which is, it's not. I gave all 3 of my boys a signature shoe. It's not like I can't go make them another shoe. It's very simple to do that. And it's like you get guys that go from one brand to another brand. It's okay, but I'm not going to get into a big, ordeal with it. It's like, okay, do I have to come out with some basketball shoes tomorrow? No. I'm doing some other things right now.
I'm guessing there was a bidding war, right? I mean, everyone must have been interested.
Well, it's definitely going to be a somewhat of a bidding war, but how can you bid too much on an endorsement deal? That's what these youngsters don't get. If you don't have no ownership in it, you're going to get a little bit, and it's okay. You know what? Like I said, it's cool for them to learn this. And I already know, like I said, with my boys and the Big Baller brand, it's a family brand. So they always going to be with me. So like I said, if I felt like it, I can go make another shoe for Melo right now.
Does Puma's not really well represented in the NBA now, right?
Right.
So this is their chance. So what they're doing is this is what they're banking on, your son. Yes, Bryan.
Exactly. Well, they got to bank on him.
Please.
And the only reason you can bank on him, on the fact you got to treat him differently. Why? You got to treat him differently because of me. What guy have they ever endorsed already had his own signature shoe? So that puts you in another lane. So if they bought a brand, Melo don't get this kind of treatment.
Sorry,
Well, as
Bryan.
I'm sure you know, Mr. Ball, there's Adam, there's a cachet, there's a value, not just in the dollars, but just in being Puma's signature star. You know what I mean? Like Steph Curry went through this a few years ago when he was Under Armour's like really big foray into the NBA. It was more than the money. He was like doing Under Armour commercials, like even Michael Jordan back in the day. Nike wasn't a big player in 1985 or whatever it was, but Michael Jordan was their guy. There was a value that's worth more than the money.
Exactly. And here's the other value that's what it's worth. It's like I said, it's the ownership thing. Because it's not, I told all my sons this, and I even told Melo, I said, hey, let me put it in the right perspective. It's probably over your head, which is you have no ownership in this. So whatever you choose to pick, they're going to do good. Whether it's Puma, Adidas, Nike, Big Baller brand, they all going to go to the moon when whoever gets you, whoever does what they do with you. But here's the thing. Since you don't own it, you're not going to get your worth. You're going to be cheated.
How's your wife doing? Is she?
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
I got to show you much love just on the fact that we're sitting here talking and you asked me about my wife. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, in this business, when you're doing other things, that's the last thing a lot of people want to ask me. They want to get me on the show and talk and stuff. And only of the selected few, I ain't going to say the selected few, but some that come from their heart ask me about my wife. And I look forward to that. And I have to say I appreciate you. But she's doing better and better each day.
Well, I don't know what's going on with your wife, so I'm not sure what she's getting better from. Is she getting better from something?
She had a stroke.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Back in 2017.
Wow.
Yes.
And she's rehabbing?
Yeah, she's rehabbing. Like I said, she's getting better. She understands everything, but she can't get a lot of the words out real quick. So sometimes she gets frustrated because she was one of them people that you just couldn't shut up. Y'all thought I had a big mouth. Lucky she ain't here. So obviously you guys are a team, and a lot of moms would not be as supportive. This is sort of feels like a dad thing, like Todd Marinovich's dad or something. And that's why I consider myself lucky on the fact that I found a mate that's like me, which is loud, charismatic, athletic, love basketball. So it was always like a family outing to us. So it was never like, okay, we're going to do this for a couple of years. And then she said, man, I need a night out with the girls, or I had enough of this. I can't stay in the gym all day. Because when you're playing AAU and you're with your boys, you might have a game at 10 o'clock and the next game's at 2. You win that one, the next game's at 6. So you're there from 10 in the morning to almost 8 o'clock. And that's, 3 or 4 times when it's a tournament. So that's 3 or 4 days you got to do that.
Right.
So to have somebody to be as tough as me too, like I'll give you a little story here. We lost a game by, I think, 3 or 4 points. And Lonzo had 40 something points. And they did good. But anyways, we ended up losing by 3. And I said the same thing. I said, hey, season Lonzo, you scored 43 points. We need you to score 47 points. And she was like, yeah, you should have had 2 more buckets and we would have won. She, on my team. And the same thing with, Melo. When Melo was playing, he was in kindergarten and we were playing 8th grade team, so in middle school. And so sometimes he'd get knocked down being little, but most moms be like, oh, that's my baby. That's up too high. she would be on the side saying, "Get your ass up." And it sounds funny coming out of her mouth because it looked like, okay, she ain't gonna say that. No, she's tough. So you could never, like say when we lose, she would never be like, "Oh, you guys did awesome," and it's just your dad. She would always be on my side, like, "Y'all gotta win." And it was cool because she never had that babying concept, which is a motherly instinct because you don't want your kids to be hurt.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of thinking about this, having kids myself, and it's like I'm the one who's kind of pushing, but the mom is the kind of one that's coddling and then explaining I'm pushing too hard or whatever that thing is. But yet you guys were on the same page since day one. Right.
And that's why the boys are successful. And usually, most of your talented kids are usually going to come from maybe a family that has a lot, but usually if the father's not there or different fathers here and there, and it's good when you can have both parents on the same page. And a lot of times that won't happen on the fact that either the mom is just home or she's home by herself, or maybe the mom and dad is there, but the dad is doing so much working on the outside to provide for the family.
What was your job, your profession, and your wife's as well when the kids, obviously you don't get paid when you're 8 to play basketball, and you guys got to travel and sign up. These tournaments, by the way, I've done it a little bit with my son. Like, there's a lot of travel. It ain't cheap.
Right. But here's the thing. When you make yourself so good, you don't have to travel. I just do the local tournaments that my boys play up so high in. It was like, okay, they're going to be in Ontario. They're going to be in Anaheim. Those are only 2 places I'm going to be at. And like, you want to play the big ballers, guess what? I ain't coming to you. You got to come to me. So I do enough talking and say we can't lose.
But what
you want to shut me up? So guess what? You're gonna come out there and get in the little tournaments that we in.
But what was your profession?
My profession was a personal trainer.
Oh,
like I said, I made my money in the beginning being a professional athlete, and then after I finished playing football back in '96, okay, I came home, and next thing you know, I got my own training business, which was called Big Ballers Training, which was one of the best things. And my wife, she was a PE teacher. So she leave at 7, she home by 2:30, and never had to do a lesson plan because you're a PE teacher.
Right.
And my thing is, I trained out of the house, so I ain't never got to go nowhere.
Well, now
so that was the best thing, even from the boys growing up. When she had the boys, Monday through Friday, you don't have to do no getting up at night. I got the boys, the babies all day. So we work together, and then when she come home, hey, now you can deal with them, make them dinner or whatever, that's good. But as far as breakfast and taking care of and getting up, when babies cry late at night, I'm going to get up. I'm going to watch Sports Center and MTV. I'll be up all night. That's fine. We work together, and it turns out where me being at home with the boys all the time, the fact that my job was out of the house, I get to discipline them my way. Like, they get to crying, I ain't going to pick them up and shake them. As long as they ate, and they didn't use the bathroom on themselves, they can holler all day. My scenario was like this. I was thinking, if you can lay on your stomach and cry for 5 minutes straight with your neck up, you got very strong lungs and a strong back.
So it was a perfect storm. I mean, your wife was all in. She was a phys ed teacher. She had that schedule with no homework or lesson plan to deal with. She was back by 2, 3 in the afternoon. You can now see how this plan was hatched. Gina, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks. You're obviously, you seem like a very strong mentor to the boys. It makes sense. I'm wondering about them being mentors to each other, all being in the same business and having the same passion. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I don't think they're mentors to each other. They just following their dad. And why they gonna follow me? Because that's what me and my wife instilled in them. So you're gonna follow what you see all the time. So one of the things is, people used to say early in their career, they said, man, your dad always, hyping you guys up. I ain't hyping them up. I'm just saying how good my product is. And I call them my product because me and my wife had them. And then people like to say, oh, without your boys, it wouldn't be no Lavar. No, without no Lavar, it wouldn't be no boys.
Good point.
I think that's a math. That's a math we can't argue with.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, I made this little comment and people said, you know, they thought it was kind of funny, but it's kind of true. I said, like, my boys are like phones, and you keep making one better than the next one. So whoever is the oldest is going to set the stage, which is Lonzo. And guess what? The only people they're chasing, Melo and Jello, they only chasing Lonzo. They don't see nobody beyond him. So they want to be better than him. That's why they're striving. But now if Lonzo was just a Rudy Putin, he wasn't that good. Guess what? Melo and Jello ain't going to be that good because they don't have nothing to grasp upon to say, I want to be better than this guy.
That
he has.
I know you're an entrepreneur. I know you know a lot about raising boys, kids, and athletes. I feel like you got a children's book in you because Melo chasing Jello and Yellow and Lonzo. I mean, they're
Dr. Seuss shit.
We got the makings of a children's book with your inspirational stuff at the bottom. Has anyone ever talked to you about a children's book?
No, not at this point. But you know what? A couple of people have asked me, you know, LeVar, you need to make a book on how to raise kids. Because I would definitely buy that book. Because like I said, all my boys were walking by 8 months. And everybody was potty trained by 10 months. Yes. People used to pick them up when they was little and be like, he don't have no pamper on. I was like, no, he wear drawers.
I bet you.
A lot of the ladies, like in the middle of the day, I had to go to the store to get some stuff, like either go to Target or Walmart or something like that. And I would have all three of my boys. And people would come up to me and said, how do you get to walk with all three of them boys and none of them touch nothing in the store? They don't touch no toys. They don't grab for no candy. They don't walk this way. They just walk on the side of you. How do you get them to do that? Just training them.
I bet you if LeVar was the one who actually carried the children in his womb, it wouldn't have gone 9 months. It would have been like 7 weeks.
Yeah, you would have
right?
had them out in 4.
Let's do this. Boil the water.
I never thought that Mr. Ball and Mayim Bialik would have so much in common with the early potty training.
That's right.
A timely Ball reference.
I want them to be kind of, you know, but sometimes when you have kids, what is the main reason? You want them to be special. I don't think you would have them sometimes unless you have them on accident. But, you know, we had ours on purpose. And like, I want them to be special. So I want people to be in awe, like, dang, that kid, you spend a lot of time with him. And let me show you how easy it is to potty train them. You get this little plastic potty. And what I would do is hold them on that potty until they do their little number 1 or whatever, or number 2.
Mm-hmm.
They would be crying and screaming, but until they put something in that pot, I wouldn't let them up. And like, you know how kids get to crying or wake up in the middle of the night? At 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I'll wake them up myself. And while they be dead asleep and put their little cold booties on that toilet. And they half sleep, feel that butt and use the bathroom, and I'll put them right back to sleep. And then wake them up first thing in the morning, put them on the toilet again. After I feed them breakfast or lunch, put them on the toilet again. So they get so used to that. And guess what? These kids at a young age, they don't want no poop in their drawers. They don't want no poop in their pants. They don't want to be wet because they're not used to that. Yeah. And then another thing is, I told my wife, if you're going to take them with you on the weekend, don't put no pamper on them, no pull-up pamper. What you do is when you go into a store, take them to the bathroom. When you leave that store and go to the next one, take them to the bathroom. So he won't get wet. But if you just hanging out and you want to go store to store to store without doing all this, if you don't want to do that, leave them with me. But if you want to take them with you, that's what you're going to have to do. And then she caught on to that, and guess what? Now they potty train.
That works with young boys. You try that with young girls, they go right from the porta potty to the pole. That's...
Hey, like I told you, I only have boys, so I don't know nothing about no girls.
Well, let me give you a plug. Ball in the Family, new episode Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Watch, and also the apparel line. You can go to bigballerbrandincorporated.com. This was eye-opening, LeVar. I hope we can have you back and have another chat, and
most definitely.
I wish your wife a continued recovery.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Lavar Ball, everybody. All right, let me just hit Tommy John, and then we'll move on to Gina's now second favorite guest of today, because I think she dug Lavar with that Marianne Bialik reference. Tommy John. I always say push yourself, right? Jump in that swimming pool in the morning. That's what I'm talking about. Just don't get the discomfort going in your pants. Real comfort in Tommy John. That's what you need. Lavar should be the sponsor for Tommy. They should use it. Kids weren't taking a poopy in their drawers by 18 months. Come on now. Pull on those Tommy Johns. I start every morning with my Tommy Johns, and Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have converts. Breathable. Once you go in other words, once you go in with the Tommy John, you don't get away from it. Breathable, lightweight, moisture-wicking fabric with 4 times the stretch of competing brands. The waistbands don't roll down. The legs never ride up. No wedgie guarantee. Over 96% 4-star plus reviews and over 12 million pairs sold. Best pair you'll ever wear. It's free guarantee, right, Dawson?
Get that much more comfortable at TommyJohn.com/Adam. Save 15% on your first order. Save 15% right now at TommyJohn.com/Adam. TommyJohn.com/Adam.
All right, we'll take ourselves a quick break. New York Times bestselling author, Oprah's spiritual advisor, presidential candidate, Marianne Williamson, right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Marianne Williamson's birthday cocktail party for July 8th. Let's see who's on the guest list. The inventor of Coca-Cola, John Pemberton. Let's hope he brought the original recipe. My, I'm so happy because Ferdinand von Zeppelin is here. Hey, mama. He's the guy who founded the Zeppelin Airship Company. The founder of Standard Oil, John D. Rockefeller. Wolfgang Puck is on the menu. So is Angelica Houston. Toby Keith is here, and he wants to talk about himself. And tonight's entertainment with 2 turntables and a microphone. We welcome Beck. Marianne Williamson is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Marianne Williamson is here. The podcast, the Marianne Williamson podcast, premieres Wednesday, October 28th on Apple and Spotify. Her website, marianne.com. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, too.
Gina, in particular, is a massive fan of yours, so she's going to be weighing in more often than normal on this one. So be prepared for that.
It's a warning to our audience, really.
That's right. So, Marianne, your story. Let's kind of go back to the start. Where do you grow up? How do you grow up?
Houston, Texas. I was born and raised in Houston.
And what do you think you're going to be doing, like when you're in high school? What is the thought?
I thought I might be a lawyer. My father was a lawyer. My brother is a lawyer. I have cousins who are lawyers. So I thought maybe that. But when I was in college, I studied a lot of comparative religion and philosophy. The kind of career that I have didn't exist at that time.
Right.
So even though I was interested in spirituality, etc., I didn't see myself being a rabbi. I didn't see myself being clergy. So I thought that those interests would always be sort of secondary. And also, to be honest, when I was growing up, there wasn't the pressure that I think young people feel today to decide. I was pretty much just kind of hanging. And then things sort of unfolded. I didn't set out to do what I do because what I do didn't exist. It wasn't a career niche.
Yeah.
I ended up doing.
It's interesting.
Same for all of us, really.
All of us.
Yeah,
well,
really.
as you
like, what does John Lennon say? What happens to you while you're
no, it kind of strikes me that when you're young, you have the pieces to the puzzle, but not the order to put them in, so they don't form a clear picture. You know, I ended up making my bones in radio. And when I was 19, I was just walking through the halls of Valley College in Van Nuys, California, going, do you guys have a radio show, radio thing? And people were like, not really. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go dig ditches for 10 years. But there was a piece of my puzzle that was always talking about radio, but there was no place to put it. And so it's like, it's essentially like you have all the main components of your puzzle, and you could form a photograph. And if you could form a picture, you could follow it or understand it, but they're all in the wrong order. And only in time can you go back and see that those pieces were kind of floating around the whole time. You just didn't know what to do with them.
That's absolutely true for me as well. And also, don't you feel that you wish you could look back at your younger self and say, just relax. It's going to happen. Because when you're young, you're like, oh my God, what's it going to be in 10 years? And, I'm now in an age, I don't even want to think about it, But that's what I wish that I'd been able to do more, was to realize, of course, you don't realize it when you're young, there is a thread here. It's going somewhere. It's going to happen. But I guess when you're young, you don't have that sense of.
Well, I have these conversations when I talk to my buddies about the good old days, and they go, yeah, we're all thin and 23 and having the time of our lives. And I'm always like, I wasn't having the time of my life. And they're like, why not?
Barely getting by.
And I was like, I wasn't having the time of my life because I kept thinking, what am I going to do when I'm 35? Mm-hmm. How's this going to work? How am I going to pay a mortgage? How am I going to raise kids? So I was sort of thinking that I'll never be able to do this. And it was harshing my Mel. It was killing my buzz. Yes, Brian.
It's funny. It's an insightful comment you had, Adam, an observation, I should say, about the bones being there. Like when you're young, like I've mentioned it before, probably once or twice on the show. I really wanted to be a sports writer. That's all I wanted to be for years. I wanted to be a professional sports writer. I realized that now looking back, I didn't have any interest in like the writing or like in the day-to-day travel. Like, that interested me. It's what this is, which is the exchange of ideas, the debate, this is interesting. What do you think about this? Talking to interesting people like Marianne Williamson. This is the bones of what I wanted to do. I just manifested itself at the time as sports writing.
I said it a couple times too, but when in 1989, maybe 1990, when I was sitting around with the director of the Acme Improv, and I was completely rudderless, and I just said, like, what do you see for me? And we knew it wasn't a writer or a stand-up or a sitcom star. He just said, you need some sort of job where you just sit around and talk all day.
Well, you got it.
Yeah, bingo.
A scant 20 years later, podcasting was born. So, Marianne, I guess we should talk. First, Gina should ask 5 questions, and then we should talk some politics, because you've been up on that presidential debate stage. But go ahead, Gina.
And congressional. So I used to go to see Marianne Williamson speak weekly at the Saban Theater on Wilshire. And it's so crazy. Chris, I don't know if you have the picture, but I was just going through my Facebook memories today. You get one on every day. And the one that came up today is a picture I took in a park. And it says, we help another person access their highest access by accessing our own. Growth comes from focus on our own lessons, not on someone else's, at Marianne Williamson. That was today, and that was from 7 years ago. And that was in my Facebook memories from today with hashtag yes, ma'am, because I'm a big proponent and so much of what Marianne teaches and has to say. So a lot of people, I would imagine the vast majority of our listeners are not familiar with A Course on Miracles, Return to Love. And the word miracle, I think, is very divisive because some people run toward it and some people say, oh, that's for crazy people. But your definition of a miracle is so accessible. I'm wondering if you can enlighten us.
Well, the book, A Course in Miracles, which I speak about, talks about how a miracle is just a shift in our own perception from seeing life one way to seeing life another way. There's a cliche, are you going to see the glass half empty, or you're going to see the glass is half full? Another way of seeing that is, are you going to just talk about what the person did wrong? Or are you also going to think about what they did right and what they tried to do right? Are you just going to blame that person and judge that person? Or are you going to give that person a break and forgive them? Are you going to only talk about the past and the future? Or are you going to show up in the present? And are you going to face this situation out of fear, or are you going to open your heart and be more loving to the person in front of you? Those might sound like little distinctions, but they're actually huge, because that decision, which we always make either unconsciously or consciously, but we're making that decision every single moment. Are you going to open your heart or close it? is going to determine your energy. It's going to determine the subconscious things that other people are picking up about you. It's going to determine how relationships and situations unfold. So it makes a lot of difference whether you approach life through the eyes of fear or through the eyes of love. And that's what a miracle is. When you make that shift to the higher thought, to the loving perception. And you see this played out in huge ways in our society today. People who are facing the world with fear, hatred, racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, homophobia, etc. They face the world one way. And then there are other people facing the world, or at least trying to face it, through tolerance, through inclusion, through love, through compassion, through mercy. Those distinctions are big in an individual life, and in a collective life, they literally determine the fate of a nation.
What's a culture that embraces that philosophy? I don't know, with more than a couple million people in it, but like, is there, what are some of the cultures that are out there that for us, there's a couple things I've always kind of been interested in. And it's like, we don't have much of a psychology in our culture. I'm more than a pop psychology. We don't have we don't put an emphasis. It's almost like diet and health. It's like, why don't we put a bigger emphasis, for the kids? I mean, we approach like diet in a kind of rudimentary way, like knock off the soda pop, you know what I mean? But we don't do a good job culturally.
Like a holistic point of view.
With diet. We don't do a good job, like sort of holistically with psychology and mental health and all that we've learned over the last few years. It's just not something that's discussed. Is there a culture that sort of has a greater emphasis on that?
Well, a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about when we were young, right? So I'm not romanticizing the time of our youth, but we did, at least I did. I'm in my 60s. So I remember a time in America, not where we were all good, but where the general consensus was that we were supposed to be. We were supposed to try to be. It's the truth of all the great religious and spiritual systems. If you saw a racist, you at least knew you're not supposed to be racist. Now, when it came to things like food, when I was growing up, they weren't poisoning the food with chemicals the way they are now. They weren't poisoning the food with all with things like factory farming now, with things like the devastation that big agriculture has brought, et cetera. There wasn't the kind of environmental devastation to put so much poison in the air. So you just kind of assumed that you could just eat 3 meals a day. You weren't thinking you had to proactively try to be that much healthier. And I think that we're just at a point of realizing how unhealthy our society is and what a price we're paying for not proactively trying to be good. We're not proactively trying to have ethics. We're not proactively trying to have character and mercy and compassion and forgiveness and health, proactively cultivating health. So we're not doing the things you're saying we're not doing. But I think part of what's happening in our society, in our country today, is telling people the terrible price we're paying because we took our eye off the ball. And we've been just searching, we've been all just in this mad grab for a certain kind of corporate bottom line of profit, power, plus prestige. And I think there's a great awakening going on in our country. We realize the terrible price we paid by forgetting that trying to be good people really is the most important thing of all.
Well, we'll sort of weave that into politics, which is, I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know how we can kind of legislate don't be racist. Like, I don't know how we put somebody in charge, local, state, or beyond, and somehow we can legislate not being racist. Like, how do we fix that? How can we fix it at that level, or do we fix it at that level? I mean, it's got to be fixed at home, obviously, but how does it work? How do we legislate that?
Well, first of all, you can't legislate it. But until recently, there was a golden mean in politics, whether you were Republican or Democrat. It was understood. There was a general consensus, not that we didn't have bigots, anti-Semites, homophobes, racists. We've always been there. I mean, until we're evolved as a human race beyond those things. But there used to be a consensus on both the left and the right that those people were nuts and they should not be given a major megaphone by either major political party. We thought we had reached that point in our society. So what's happened now is that the levees have fallen, partly because of social media, and partly because we have a person no less powerful than the president of the United States that says things, who says things that we thought we had gotten to the point where no Democrat or Republican president would say. So a large part of this has to do with the character of leaders. A large part of it has to do with the responsibility of tech companies. You know, this is what we're going through in our country right now. As Mark Zuckerberg decides, well, do I take down the Holocaust denial or not? You know, I mean, this is what this society is grappling with, because we never had this before. We never had what these tech platforms bring, where people with really crazy perspectives and dangerous perspectives have megaphones the way they do on social media platforms. And we never had before a president who was so blatantly expressive of the worst aspects of the American character.
Well,
so we're dealing with this right now, and everybody's trying to decide for themselves how to deal with that.
I think the problem is essentially we weren't meant to process this much information this fast, and it's overwhelming, and it leads to depression and anger and anxiety and lack of sleep, and then all the confusion, all the bad stuff that comes when you don't get enough sleep and you drink more, you eat junk, whatever. But so here's a concept I've never really put out there, but you guys can all think about it. We're not meant for this. I know we're not meant for this. And it's sort of like, it'd be like a Twilight Zone if somebody said, when you were in the 9th grade, don't you wish you could read everyone's mind in your school? Wouldn't you want to be able to read everyone's mind? And of course, if you ask a 9th grade version of me or any one of us, you'd jump at that chance. Like, I could find out if that boy really liked me or not, or I could find out what the answers were on the test by looking at the teacher and all kinds of stuff. And so we bid on it. We said, I want that. I want that ability. Again, it's like a Twilight Zone episode. And someone said, fine. You'll know what everyone is thinking all the time. So then you went to the boy you had a crush on, but he wasn't thinking about you. He was thinking you were a little overweight and that he'd rather be with your friend. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, God, like it was devastating. And you
Not Brian Bishop.
That's right. And then you thought then you read what the teacher was reading, but the teacher was saying, oh, this guy's not college material. He's not even junior college material. And all of a sudden now you have all the information that you thought you wanted, except for so much of it is so negative and it just keeps streaming in. And then you think, I know I could fix this if I just got more information and I could find more. I'll find someone else who has a crush on me, but it turns out that guy doesn't have a crush on you, or he does, but now he doesn't anymore. So we made this a little deal with the devil, like the Twilight Zone, and now we're getting all this information. And then imagine we're just a kid in the 9th grade walking through a crowded hallway in your junior high with all these voices in your head, and every person you pass, they go, did he just fart? Like, just everybody, oh, not him again, or the coach is going, he's never going to make the team. You know, and it's all, well, how fast before that kid would be overwhelmed with depression, eating disorders, and eventually probably kill themselves? Thoughts, panel?
What you're saying is very true, and I think it's what the entire society is reckoning with, beginning with what you said originally, which was the human brain. This is very new. This evolved over millions of years. And you woke up in the morning and to the sun, and then when the sun rose and the sun set, and there were natural rhythms. All of a sudden, technology has introduced this constant ubiquitous assault of information and data that technology has brought forth. And you're right, the brain itself doesn't know how to deal with it. And it has turned us into an entire society of people who have no impulse control. Now you have things like the Social Dilemma film that came out recently, talking about the addictive quality of all this. Yep. And also when you said that you didn't used to know what people were thinking, and now you do know what they're thinking. Well, when you didn't know what they were thinking, they had time to think about what they wanted to say before they said it. Right. Now, everybody does, it's not necessarily what I was thinking, except at that exact moment in a reactive mode. So our lack of reflection, our lack of thinking deeply, our lack of responsiveness rather than reactiveness, I think that's one of the reasons why COVID, in its own way, has had it's interesting how sometimes the worst things deliver some unexpected gifts. The fact that we've all been forced to sit down and think a little more than we had before. The only good news about what you just said, in my opinion, is that everything you said is what everybody's thinking about right now. At least we're finally facing, this has really gone too far. We're out of our minds. And I think that people are realizing that on a very individual level, each of us has to do our own part, whether it has to do with not being addicted to the device, not being so reactive, being more thoughtful and reflective, because all of us can see in our society today what has happened because we took our eye off the ball of just being better human beings.
Well, in lieu of so much education and mindfulness and Tai Chi and meditation and everything, because that's such a long and difficult path for a lot of people, you just have to shut your fucking phone off, people. You just have to get away from it. I mean, we could work on all the mindfulness in the world, or you could just physically get away from your phone, X amount of days. I mean, just for a starter. I mean, I feel like a dietitian just going, just stop eating so much. Back it off.
But you know what? It's not as simple for people who have a real food problem. It's not as simple as telling people to just stop because they're addicted. And it's not, particular for parents who weren't on it with that from the time our kids were little. If you have little children who at the age of 3 or 2 or 3 are already looking at tablets and they're already being programmed to think that the action's on the screen rather than human beings. And then when they're 13, you say, hey, everybody, we're not going to have the tablets at dinner table. Your kids, some of these kids are already so, once again, the word is addicted. So unfortunately, this has gone so far that for many people, it's not as simple as just say no.
Well, but I don't know what the alternative is.
No, we have to. I agree with you, and I think that I think that we are reckoning with that. I mean, I don't know anyone who's not. I am. I get it. I get it because I used to tell myself I have to have my phone with me because my daughter's young and she might need me. And then I got to the point where the other way she could contact you, you really don't need it anymore. Once again, I think we all know this now. This is a conversation. The good news is it's a conversation everybody's having.
With Zoom school, I can't imagine things are going to get better before they get a little worse. We have a 5-year-old in the house whose first introduction to kindergarten is on a tablet. It's sad. He does physical education in between the dining room table and the bar. It's sad. And the thing that I've noticed most is when a kid says something right or does something, the teacher, who's amazing, and there's a reason for this, everyone's just trying to figure it out, says, oh, we love that. Send him some love. Everybody send hearts.
Oh, like likes or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Because they don't have a choice. They're not in the same room. And I thought, oh boy, send hearts. And he's 5. And that's the new precedent.
The sad irony is they're doing their best.
That's not gonna, that is temporary. Mm. And we'll be back to it. And also, I think when it comes to some of these Zoom calls, and I think we can see it right now. I mean, in some of the Zoom meetings that people are having, we're recognizing how much you can do on Zoom too. I don't associate Zoom with the kind of addictive texting, checking social media all the time. Some of it's enabling us to see each other's faces more than we would have in meetings down the conference room table.
Well, we're engaged. You know what I mean? We're all looking at each other right now, talking to each other.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly.
So let's
seeing their faces more than they would be if the child was sitting 3 rows back.
Yeah.
Let's talk politics, because you've been up on that stage more than once. We have another debate going on in a few days. Why don't you sort of coach us through it? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll challenge you with this. If you were working for Trump and Trump would listen to you and you could magically tell him what to do and he would do it, what would you tell him? And then I'll ask the same question about Biden.
I would never work for him.
All right. Sorry. I tried. All right. All right. Okay. Let's say you work for someone who isn't going to be in the debate. Let's say you work for Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
What would you tell him to say Thursday night?
Well, Bernie Sanders is the one politician who I don't think would need any coaching, because Bernie Sanders would, it's kind of like when that actor, who's the one who was with Katharine Hepburn for so many,
Spencer Tracy.
Spencer Tracy.
And somebody asked him how you act. I think he said, just open your mouth and tell the truth. Bernie Sanders is one of those rare politicians that opens his mouth and tells the truth. And I try to be, on my campaign, someone who opened my mouth and tells the truth. And that's what we don't have enough of in politics. And that's, I believe, one of the things that has hurt our society so much. We've become a market-based society. Everything is about making the sale. We're practically auditioning rather than dating each other. Everybody's trying to be who they think they need to be in order to get approval, in order to make the sale. And politicians do that too. Politicians aren't speaking enough about what people need to hear. They're thinking too much about what they think people want to hear in order to vote for them. We're not having enough political conversation about what people need to hear. And I believe that Bernie is among those who do have that conversation. And my experience as a candidate made me think people actually want that. If you eat junk food enough, you kind of want a healthy meal. And there's so much junk in this society, including junk politics, that I think there's a real hunger. There's a real hunger. Can somebody be real and talk about the truth and be authentic so that we can actually fix the problems that confront us? That's what I believe the winning ticket will be for future politics.
I always say, Hollywood understood this a million years ago, as ham-handed as they always are. Every 4 years there'd be some movie with Kevin Costner where he was kind of the aw shucks president,
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, the archetype for the politician who just tells it like it is.
Right, like Hollywood got it. America doesn't want the Brill cream and the teeth whitener and the slick, fast-talking salesman. We just want the truth, man. And he gets up there and talks about his flaws and talks about he's made mistakes. And Hollywood was onto this. They've kind of always been onto this, but we never really got onto it politically
Oh, I think we were. I mean, Harry Truman was famous for, Harry, the things Harry would say.
In the recent past.
In the media era.
Though, my experience as a candidate has led me to believe people do want it. But when you have a political system that is more responsive to the money, to the corporate money of their donors, than to the actual will of the people, then you have a political class that is very, very tempted to say what they feel their donors want them to say, rather than what people's hearts and minds are actually begging them to say.
No, I think you were onto it with your junk food metaphor, which I hope you were, which is, it's so true. As much as you crave junk food, after eating too much of it, you just have this yearning for some broccolini and some piece of salmon. Like, we've all been there, and maybe we're there politically. Let me give you a plug, Marianne Williamson. The podcast, the Marianne Williamson podcast, premieres Wednesday, October 28th on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And you can check out her website, Marianne.com. Marianne, thanks for joining us. And it'd be nice to talk to you for update when some of this stuff shakes out.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all. And Gina, thank you. It's so nice to meet you.
This was an honor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. All right.
God bless. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I'll hit Red Cap, and then we'll do the news right after this. That's Red Cap with a K, not a C. Red Cap. It's one of the oldest makers of workwear in the country, outfitting our essential workforce for nearly a century. They have something for seemingly every industry: coveralls, high visibility work shirts, oil blocking chef coats, and shop shirts as well. The coveralls are outstanding. They sent over a big chub pack for all the boys here, and we love them. They're top quality. They've been around for a million years. And right now, you go to redcap.com, enter promo code Adam, and get 20% off your first order. This offer ends November 20th, so get in there and buy some top-tier industrial-grade workwear that's perfect for any day job. That is redcap.com with a K. Promo code Adam. All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back and do the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina. Grad. Breaking viral. All those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina. Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, I have an update on the Anchorage, Alaska scandal of the century. If you remember the names, Ethan Berkowitz and Maria Athens, and that hot, piping hot audio we played a few days ago, which was pretty awesome. He has resigned. Ethan Berkowitz has stepped down as mayor, admitting to having an inappropriate relationship with Maria, who made online allegations against him. That he was a pedophile and put his junk on underage girl websites.
The good news of stepping down as mayor of Anchorage, Alaska, that if you get a job at a Costco in Encino, it's kind of a lateral move. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guys fall from grace, like, oh, he was the mayor of New York City. And
hey, I recognize you.
Right. But Anchorage, you get yourself a decent job as a clerk at a law firm. You're right back to even.
That's right. Well, now they're bringing in Austin Quinn Davidson. She'll serve as acting mayor of Anchorage starting next Friday. Yes.
On my list of things to do, like jump into a body of water with a knife in my mouth and have my hands registered as weapons in Nevada and stuff like that, I at some point would like to step down from a position.
Oh, sure.
It's negative, but it means you've achieved something, right?
Yeah, you got some juice.
Right. There's a scandal brewing. I have to step down. It could be
good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quinn Davidson is a 40-year-old attorney, will be the first woman and openly gay person to serve as mayor or acting mayor of Anchorage. And they don't know what they're going to do from here. They either let her stay and finish out, or they're going to just have her as a placeholder until another election. They're figuring that out. But Berkowitz is out.
Well, good. Yeah, that was some incredible tape.
Oh, it's the best. So a second excavation began on Monday at a cemetery in an effort to find and identify the victims of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, according to NBC News. And the reason I bring this up, by the way, is I don't remember ever learning about this in school.
Well,
I learned about this.
I wouldn't know the name if their AAA baseball team wasn't called. I mean, obviously out of the Tulsa area, the Tulsa Race Massacres.
Right, but that's the only reason you know them.
Right, it's like I've only
on the jersey.
Right, I wouldn't know.
The violence happened on May 31st, 1921. And that was when a mob attacked the Tulsa's Black Wall Street, killing an estimated 300 people, wounding 800 more, robbing, burning businesses. They tried to excavate in 2018, but they came up empty. However, they used this at the time groundbreaking radar that began appearing to be a human pit indicative of a mass grave, but they were wrong. It was a creek. It happened 2 years after what's known as the Red Summer. Another thing I don't remember learning about in school, when hundreds of African Americans died at the hands of white mobs in violence around the U.S. And if you're HBO watchers, the show Watchmen really takes an unflinching look, the first episode or two, at the Tulsa Race Massacre, and also Lovecraft Country, a new show on HBO. A science fiction show, but has these themes.
As soon as I'm done rewatching all 9 seasons of The Love Boat, I will be moving on to Watchmen. That's for sure.
Watchmen is unbelievable.
But I have to prioritize.
Love Boat unbelievable, or just unbelievable?
You're right. It's Love Boat, everything else, Watchmen, then the rest of TV, but it's so good.
See, I think everyone thinks I'm making a joke, but I'm doing like a sociological study. I'm doing an archaeological dig. I'm doing what they did. Like, I want to know what this culture was like in 1980. And if you watch The Love Boat, that's it. That's how we dressed. That's how we thought mores. That's how we spoke. It's all there because it's prime time network Love Boat. That's all there.
I just gave you a new title. You're a media anthropologist.
Yes. If you want to know how women wore their hair in 1979, watch an episode of Love Boat. That's how women wore their hair.
Very smart.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, from Japanese internment camps to the Tulsa to Black Wall Street. I've never even heard that term until I was an adult.
I feel like our history classes are a bit Eurocentric.
Yeah.
I always wondered why. And I thought, is it just too shameful that a teacher just doesn't want to stand up and talk about this with children? I mean, I'd never heard of Japanese internment camps until I went to college.
Oh, well, you didn't hang out with George Takei enough.
That's true.
True.
Yeah.
Sorry, Japanese American internment camp.
Oh, do not make that mistake in front of George Takei. He will always correct you.
Are you familiar with the rapper Nuke Bizzle?
Nuke Bizzle.
You shouldn't be until I play you a part of this incredible song.
Okay.
This rapper who I thought you might have seen this on TMZ, who bragged about defrauding the government's unemployment program in a music video, has been arrested.
Oh, yeah. That's a TMZ story. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, no. Wait a minute.
Oh.
I'm thinking of like Nuke Muzzle or something who is. There's a thing about crime. Part of crime is not bragging about crime because
Indeed.
I was watching someone from last week. He had like a paintball gun and he was filming himself driving around through neighborhoods, like shooting at cars and like shooting at people and laughing it up. And it's like, well, you don't want to put that on TV because,
that's evidence.
That's what you call evidence there. And I guess rapping about defraud. Yes, I heard this case. Yes, I know this one.
This is the new if a tree falls in the forest. If I commit this amazing crime, but nobody knows about it, is there anything for me to celebrate? Because this is amazing. He was arrested on federal charges of carrying out the exact scheme he raps about in the video, according to the DOJ. Fontrell Baines, he's 31. He goes by Nuke Bizzle, was arrested.
Your name's Fontrell Baines. Why change it?
Stick with it.
Yeah,
That's right.
I know.
After applying for more than $1.2 million in jobless benefits and using stolen identities in a scheme to fraudulently obtain unemployment insurance from the coronavirus relief and the CARES Act, if convicted of all the charges, he faces 22 years in prison. Besides the best lyric, which is, "You got to sell cocaine, I just file a claim."
Right.
Here's another part of the song that's getting a little attention.
So swimming 10K a day, counting the bills at the CPA.
You gotta sell cocaine, I can just file a claim. Rats coming straight to the bank, I'm doing shit that you can't. Nigga, I'm smarter than you ain't. EDD scale, that's tell that you heard about. I be so happy to certify. Get on that laptop, I'm working out. Did 25 cleansing for hours. She changed my life and I gotta admit it. More money I swear I done had in a minute.
So he's giving a step-by-step on how to do this. You go on
Young Money, Cash Money.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm
file
thinking
your
of
claims.
I'm thinking of Lil Uzi Vert. Chris is explaining. Sorry, I got my Lils or my Uzi. I can't
Lil
keep.
Uzi Vert?
Lil Uzi Vert is the guy who takes the paintball guns and drives around and shoots up the neighborhood.
Well, he's Lil Uzi.
He defrauds the citizens of their retinas. That's what he's been accused of. Yeah.
So yeah, he very well may be going to federal prison for decades, just because Dianu, as the Jews say, it would have been enough to defraud the government, but then you had to rap about it.
Look, I don't want to go from old to mummy, but this new weird cadence for rap, what is up? It's just that's the rap, that's the cadence now. I'm looking at you, Max, Bad. That da 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 da.
Yeah.
The da 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 da. Does everyone have to do the same cadence now, or could somebody do something different?
I think that's a certain style. You're asking the wrong guy. I mean,
Okay. It seems even lazier now than it was 8 years ago.
Young Money, Cash Money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Speaking of that, I'm gonna go from alabaster to eggshell. But the only thing I can base it on is it's very Cardi B.
Right.
Like she's on top. She's the one who's getting all the success, and everyone's just kind of imitating her. Brian, I'm going to file this under the category of it was still alive. Coca-Cola just announced they're killing off Tab.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
No more. I didn't know Tab was still available.
I wouldn't have definitively been able to tell you yes or no.
It was their first ever diet soda. It debuted almost 60 years ago, but really hit its stride in the 70s and 80s.
I don't know that I've ever had a Tab.
Oh.
Is Tab good or bad?
It's bad. I mean,
well, it's Some people like it. It's got a kind of bitter after note.
Yeah.
And it's basically diet soda before they really worked out diet soda when you knew it was diet soda.
Yeah.
And now you can get a diet Dr. Pepper or something. It doesn't taste that diety. Tab tastes pretty diety.
Yeah, and that certain shade of pink on the can wasn't doing it any favors. That like Pepto-Bismol color that they went with.
No, but you knew what it was. Like you could always spot it.
Oh, sure.
And they probably ran a lot of commercials with like sexy chicks and stuff like that. I kind of remember from like back in the day.
I only ever knew Tab from Back to the Future. When Marty goes back to 55, he orders the Tab. Like, you want a Tab? You got to order something.
You haven't ordered anything. They're also getting rid of some of their other underperforming products, Odwalla juices, and I think Dawson, were those the juices you were drinking, the Odwalla, or was that?
I was on the green machine.
It was on the green machine.
And Zico coconut water. They're all getting the axe.
Dude,
oh, really?
Gross. Those are sick.
Yeah.
Didn't
those come in like the paper? Like
they tasted like vomit.
Yeah, I never had one.
The Odwalla, is that Odwalla? I always said Odwalla.
Maybe.
I always figured, at a certain point, people, I think, figured out, hold your ears, Dawson, that drinking one of those energy drinks or the protein or the juice or the smoothie, you might as well just eat a cheeseburger like at that point. And so maybe people are catching up to that. I don't know.
For the record, I haven't drank one of those in about 2 years, and I'm doing the blended broccoli every day.
Nice. What's in this? What's in the smoothie?
It's just blended broccoli and pineapple juice. Just a bunch of frozen broccoli, and then cover it with pineapple juice. Blend it up.
Chris said you just ate 5 tacos from Del Taco.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
You have to eat.
You have to blend those.
It's true.
The real question with the broccoli and the pineapple juice is, does it taste like broccoli or does it taste like pineapple juice?
Mostly tastes like pineapple juice.
And what do you think the ratio is? What do you think our broccoli pineapple juice ratio is?
It's awful thick. I just essentially pile up like a cup and a half of broccoli and then cover it with pineapple juice. It's a thick, I'd say it's about 70% broccoli.
Wow. All right. Good for you.
Yeah. Speaking of that, with my haul that I just did at the everything's 50% off Whole Foods run.
Oh yeah.
And I supermarket swept the store. I got like a giant, and actually, Brian, I thought of you. I got one of those giant, because they're selling whole hams, industrial sized bags of cheese. I mean, everything. And I got this bucket of peanuts, bucket of pecans, and bucket of almonds. And
Sharp.
last night started throwing them in the old food processor.
Make your peanut butter?
Yeah, little pinch of salt.
God bless
and
you.
Just a drop of Mexican vanilla extract.
God
and I
bless.
blended it all up. I gave it to my fiance, who's been in SNG since January 1st. And he's like, this tastes like candy. It's candy. So do you guys want that for your Christmas presents? Because
Not really.
I have mason jars. I have mason jars
I'll
in
take
there.
them. Why did Whole Foods go half off with everything?
They're renovating. They're renovating for 8 months.
Oh.
So everything on the store, they couldn't get rid of it fast enough. So I literally had so much in my cart, and I'm a terrible stacker too. You would have been horrified, Brian. I literally was pushing it with my hand and same hand, same elbow, and holding product with my other arm because I just couldn't get everything on top. It was all.
We're using the down below. People forget about the down below.
I put crushed tomatoes and low sugar sauce on the bottom because I thought if those fall, at least they'll roll. They're not going to splatter.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Now,
but I went crazy.
There's a Whole Foods in Encino.
On Coldwater. In like Studio City is.
Studio City. So, and they're having them basically half off sale. So I'm picturing a couple of heavy set women of color duking it out in the front by the garbanzo bean section.
You know,
it's a Black Friday situation.
You have it completely off. I hate to shit on your point.
Right. Well,
a much different crowd.
I shouldn't stereotype. Was it slim pickings? Was it cleaned out?
Wow. No,
Wow.
I don't. I found out about it on one of those next door apps. So I don't know how fast the word got out, but I got smoked mackerel, things that I thought, well, if I wanted to ever try it, now's the time.
Yeah.
Because it's on heavy duty sale.
All
It was
right.
a lot of fun.
Smart.
Speaking of drinks, you don't typically think of Pepsi as something to drink when you want to fall asleep, but the company's about to add a new beverage to their drink lineup, and it's designed to drink before you go to sleep. The name is a little on the nose. It's called Driftwell. It launches in December. It contains L-theanine and magnesium, which are ingredients said to help you relax and de-stress before you fall asleep. It comes in blackberry lavender. They're sold in little mini cans. And you can pound something made by Pepsi and see if that helps you go to sleep.
Well, we got to worry a little about that slippery slope of, wake up with the energy drink and go to bed with another concoction, this sort of up and down. And literally all this stuff is as much as you can do it, it's supposed to be from within you organically, right? So it's like you're supposed to get a good night's sleep, and then you're supposed to wake up refreshed and energized as the sun comes up. And then after a hard day's work, you're supposed to detune and go to bed that night. And there's a certain amount of, got a headache, take an aspirin. We all get that. But at a certain point, too many things putting in us to pull us. I mean, obviously the extreme of this is Elvis Presley. I had to take these pills to go out on stage and then take those pills to go to bed at night.
Michael Jackson.
Right. Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Prince. So we don't want that. But isn't an energy drink and then a night-night Pepsi drink, is that kind of a loosely based version of the same principle?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's my life these days. CBD at night, coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, you're an addict.
Does the CBD work? Does CBD work for you?
Yeah, it helps me sleep very evenly through the night. I would wake up a lot because of medication, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And the CBD is a very helpful natural sleep aid.
Good. All right, Gina, what else?
The Flaming Lips are apparently going to play some shows, and everyone in the audience is going to be in a giant literal bubble. We have pictures of this. At first, I didn't think it was real, but apparently it is. So back in June, they performed inside a bubble on Colbert, and I thought this was just kind of a weird image, like like CGI. No, this is real. Go ahead and play it, Kaylin. So what you're seeing right now is it's probably Wayne Coyne or whoever on like a levitated like stage in a giant bubble, and the audience each has their own bubble that they're dancing in. And he says it seems absurd, but it's becoming kind of serious and real. We're getting ready to do actual shows where there's people in each of these spaces, and we play 2 shows a night and get a big audience in there each time. So we're seeing people dancing in these crazy bubbles, and there's a picture, and just because again this didn't seem realistic to me, show the picture of them setting up the bubbles.
Yeah, I saw this on TMZ. How does it possibly work that you're dancing in a bubble without completely being drenched in sweat?
It's probably disgusting. I don't know.
Am I just older? What if you want to sit down for a song?
You could probably sit in your bubble. Show them the picture of
we're
the
still
bubbles
pulling that
getting
one
set
up.
up.
We didn't have that one prepped.
Oh, okay. Because it's very, or not, but just at first I was like, oh, is this, camera trickery? No, there's flat plastic bubbles on the ground waiting to be inflated before the show. Wow. So if you got to go on tour, you got to think of something.
I can't imagine. It seems, look, everything in that business, because I'm in that business to a degree, is really just based on units sold, So it's like how many you play a nightclub, you sell 80 tickets, you make a little money. It's sell 380 tickets, you make a lot of money. It's just about volume, And so when you go, well, the club can only be half capacity, you go, all right, well, now it's half the money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I had one of these funny discussions with my sister about this, which is, and I've had a few of these with people in my life, and you tell me if this sort of rings true, maybe a friend or family member. I said to her, she said, oh, so what are you doing? I said, yeah, well, going out and playing clubs, but they're half capacity, so they're half full, and that's how it works, And she goes, well, do you get a pay decrease? And I said, yeah, it's half the money because the club is half full. And she goes, I bet those club owners got something worked out. And I said, no, it's literally they pay you how many people come through the door, and when half the people come through the door, then you get paid half. And she went, I'm pretty sure those guys are. And I just stopped her and I said, do you know about this business? She goes, no. And I go, well, I do. This is because I do it. This is my business. So I'm just going to tell you, no. But it's a weird thing. You know that thing where people just sort of go off on their own, whatever. And the first scooch back toward daylight never works. The first scooch doesn't work. They're still busy going off on a thing. But the thing I love about it is they don't have to know anything about it. Nothing.
It helps if they don't.
I think it does.
It'd be more fanciful.
Yes.
Also, it's a bit of a flawed theory because between you and Mike August and every other comedian and agent working out there, you've all played these clubs before. Like, it'd be weird to like jerry rig or gerrymander the pay structure. It's like, I've played this club twice before. I know what the pay structure is.
Well, the real outrage would be, or the real, you should be curious if I said, well, we play to half the capacity. And then she said, do you get paid half as much? And I went, no, full freight. I get paid the same. That's actually a conversation.
That's fishy, yeah.
Me saying we're getting paid, I get paid half as much because half the people are in the club. That shouldn't pull up alarm bells. But anyway.
Trigger anything.
No.
Makes a lot of
That's
sense.
why they call us the Carollas. I do, by the way, as I get older, I get less patient. I'll just jump in mid-conversation. Go, do you not think I know what I'm talking about? Or is this something you know about? Because I don't.
Yeah, where are we going?
Where are we
In
going?
your younger
Before I
days, you
get
might
on
have
board.
entertained this line of questioning.
Yeah.
Yes. Opening for Pauly Shore in the early 90s. I guess you thought you learned a thing or two? No, I tend to. This is one of those older guy things like I was saying to my mom once. I went a couple of weeks ago. I called the number and the phone just rang and rang and rang and nothing. You never picked up. She went, well, I have an answering machine. And I said, I know, but it just didn't pick up. And she went, well, it always picks up. And I said, yeah, I know, but I called a couple of times. The phone just rang. Well, the answering machine, now I stop and I go, do you think I'm lying? Because that's where we're at. And normally it takes a while to get there. I just want to get there now.
Yeah.
Are you saying I'm lying? Do you not believe that I called you? If so, say so. Because that's essentially
we can have
what
that conversation.
That is what you're saying. So should we just move on and have that conversation? It's a weird thing, right?
And your mom's immediate response would go, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's always like, no, I'm not accusing you of a liar. And it's like, well, kind of.
There's only two possibilities.
There's really only two possibilities. Either I did it or I didn't do it. I'm telling you I did. You're explaining to me I couldn't have. It's kind of something there. All right. It's a bizarre people in the conversations. All right, we're looking at the pods, but
it looks like popped bubble wrap.
The
jellyfish are washed up on shore.
Yeah.
The pods ain't free, and in the space that we're looking at 100 pods in a hole that would hold 1,200 people. So, I mean, it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or something.
It's
9,
probably
10.
like between 80 and 100.
80 and 100. There's no math that makes this work.
There's no way this makes sense monetarily.
Right,
Absolutely
but there's
not. And then they got to clean them. They're doing two shows a night.
It's
Good
promotional.
luck.
It's
What
promotional.
about the damage that's done to the pods? People are dancing in them on what I assume is concrete or some sort of hard floor.
When I was 19, I definitely would have chowed in that pod. No doubt about it. Dawson, you would have yacked in that pod, right?
Oh, I feel like I already have.
Yeah, so there's 75, 85 pods, but that ain't going to work financially. But, hey, we're talking about them, aren't we?
That's right.
I had no plans on talking about the Flaming Lips otherwise.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Last but not least, we got Geico. You want to save yourself some real money during this Halloween season coming up? You always go with Geico. They're working even harder these days to save you that much more. Switching to Geico, not scary, especially when you can just brew up some spellbinding savings, and they'll do it just for you. So you get a quote, you go to geico.com, see just how much it could be saving you on your auto insurance at Geico. That is geico.com. Steve Byrne, the stand-up comedian, all-around good guy, and writer-director as well, is going to be Jimmy O Yang's movie, the opening act,
That's
which
right.
everyone says is great. I got to watch that. So he's going to be in here tomorrow. I'm Your Emotional Support Animals, available as we speak. You can get that on Amazon and wherever else. And write a review. I'll read it. West Palm Beach, Florida Improv, the 20th and 21st. Live podcast, early show, stand-up show, late show, and a fifth show. Because I ain't burning enough calories. We'll be doing Reasonable Doubt, Saturday matinee show. Mark Garagos going to be there in the flesh. So, until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Lavar Ball and Marianne Williamson. I defy you to find a show with more range than those two. I said it at the beginning. I feel more strongly about it now, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Gina, Grad, and Bald Bryan saying mahalo.